Necessarily represent the views of MyTV Baltimore.
Hi, welcome to Straight Talk. I want to welcome all of our new viewers across the country and let you know that Straight Talk is a show that tries to inform you, the public, about different issues that impact our quality of life. Today we're going to talk about one that impacts probably everyone in the country, the problem of alcohol and drugs, what it does to our families, our communities, our cities. We're seeing a national epidemic of heroin. Our kids are going back to school, alcohol abuse. It's a big, big issue, and it impacts everything. So today we're going to take the whole show and try to educate you about substance abuse, what you can do, and what we can all do to make it better. And joining me is an expert, Dr. Sabrina Njai, who is a psychotherapist, has been in this field a long time, and LCSW, have all kinds of great titles. You know, it's wonderful, you know, that you've done so much work in this issue, and I appreciate you being here to educate the public a little bit. So let's just start kind of at the beginning. You know, it seems like with this, we have this heroin epidemic. Every day there's something else about drugs or alcohol. Is it really getting, it seems like it's getting worse than we've seen it in the past. Is it just that it's on the media, or are we really seeing different drugs and younger users and all the things we hear about? What's your take on that?
Well, my take on it, Mike, and by the way, thank you for having me as well. So certainly we're having access to more information via the internet, via social media. I think that drugs and alcohol have been an issue for hundreds of years in our community, and I think that there's still really, really important issues that need to be addressed. Now, heroin is on the rise in our communities, and I think what's happening is that families are really more stunned around the idea of their kid or someone that they love using heroin because it's an illegal substance. But the reality of it is there is nothing more dangerous to the human body than alcohol. And it's been legal for the past 90 years or so. So it's a pretty deadly drug. It impacts every organ in the body. It was a problem before, and it's a problem now.
So when we talk, so you're saying we're kind of like, we firefight.
Exactly.
Yeah, right now heroin is the hot drug.
Exactly.
And it's hitting communities. And I think you made a good point about the fact that, you know, when we think about a heroin addict, even when we think about an alcoholic, it's usually someone in the gutter.
Absolutely.
With heroin, we think it's an inner city issue. We don't think about the suburbs.
Yes.
But now everything's in the suburbs.
Yes, and that's the difference.
Yeah.
We have this picture in our minds of what an addict looks like. And our kids and our family members don't fit the picture. They live in decent homes, they go to decent schools, they're well educated, they have financial resources perhaps. And so we don't, because that picture doesn't fit the person that we love, we're one, afraid, two, shocked, three, appalled. There's a great deal of denial around the possibility that this could be someone that we love. But the reality of it is, and I've worked in drug addiction for almost 30 years, the majority of the people who I have helped have looked like our family members. They've not been down and out. They've been employed. They've actually functioned in the world in many, many ways, and yet they've still struggled with this disease.
Yeah, I'm really glad you brought that up, because I think until we realize that the issue doesn't discriminate.
It does not.
That it happens everywhere, will people realize. And again, I think this heroin epidemic might be a wake-up call. Because again, it's something, as you said, it didn't look like us in the suburbs.
It didn't.
It wasn't. These parents are now stunned. I mean, the number of young people dying of heroin overdoses is enormous. And it is waking up middle-class America to say, wow, this is a big problem. And what you're saying is we've had problems here for a long time.
We've had problems. I think the other picture that has been in our minds historically is of a heroin addict who's shooting dope, who's taking in the drug intravenously. And now the heroin that's available to our kids now in our culture today, it's stronger, and it doesn't require necessarily taking it with a needle. They can simply snort it. And so it kind of looks like cocaine and feels like cocaine, but has that long-term impact of heroin and the accompanying withdrawal symptoms that happen when someone gives up the drug. So we have this image in our mind of a person who's shooting drugs, and then we realize that our kids are dying from a drug that they're snorting.
Yeah, and that is the ultimate wake-up call.
That is.
I think, like you said before, the most abused drug is alcohol.
Absolutely.
Yet it's accepted and tolerated in so much of our communities that, oh, you know, it's a rite of passage of kids to drink, even though it's the leading cause of their death.
And it's tolerated because it's legal also.
Right.
So the third picture of the heroin addict is a criminal. And they are, in fact, breaking the law by using it. Alcohol, on the other hand, is totally legal and far more destructive to the human body and to the family, because it is socially acceptable to drink.
Yeah.
And there's just sort of a line that every family draws around what's unacceptable alcohol abuse versus acceptable alcohol abuse. And heroin is seen as unacceptable for most families.
Well, back in the old days, they called them hard drugs and soft drugs.
Absolutely.
And there was, you know, well, I was doing a soft drug, not a hard drug. And that was some kind of distinction.
Yes, but I still see that in my practice, Mike.
Yeah.
I see families who come in, they say, oh, I'm so relieved he's only an alcoholic. I thought he was hooked on the real stuff. I'm like, he is hooked on the real stuff. Yeah. And he has a chronic illness that is progressive, and it will kill him.
Yeah. This is a great start. When we come back, I want to talk about this chronic disease.
Okay.
I want people to understand about addiction. So we're going to talk about that. When we come back, we're going to continue talking with Dr. Sabrina Njai about addiction and what's going on in this country and what we can do in our communities to make it safer and better for everyone who suffers from this illness. Stay with us. We're coming right back to Straight Talk.
Parents sure have their hands full, and they could use an extra hand. Now, every state offers free or low-cost health insurance for your sports hero or budding artist. Kids up to age 19 can get checkups, doctor and dentist visits, hospital care, prescriptions, and more. Your child may qualify based on your family size and income. It's one less thing to worry about. Call or go online for more information.
What about my privacy?
It's protected.
And the music I listen to?
Protected. What about how I wear my hair?
And the things I say and write?
The Constitution protects your rights.
It isn't an old, fading piece of paper.
It's a living document.
The Constitution says there are 3 branches of government.
So we're kind of like the 4th branch of government.
We are the future of America.
Find out how you could become part of Constitution Day.
For me.
For all. For real.
Constitution Day is every day.
Minds can achieve anything. We make sure they get to college. Federal student aid provides more than $150 billion in grants, loans, and work-study funds to make college possible for anyone with the mind to get there. Because if given the chance, minds will do great things. Federal Student Aid, proud sponsor of the American Mind. Learn more about money for college at studentaid.gov.
Hi, welcome back to Straight Talk. And again, I want to welcome all of our new viewers. We're talking about the problem of substance abuse, heroin, alcohol, marijuana, you name it. We're talking about it. What we can do about it, how to spot it, and how to get help, whether it's in our own family. We're talking with Dr. Sabrina Njai, who is an expert in this issue. She's been doing this work for over 30 years. She's seen it all, and helping us work through this. And Dr. Njai, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Let's talk about addiction.
Okay.
You know, everyone said, well, it's not a disease, it is a disease. It can be cured, it cannot be cured. Give me your explanation. If you were to say, how do you explain addiction?
So the way I explain it to my clients and my families is this simple as this. Addiction is a chronic, progressive illness. If left untreated, it can kill you. So I usually use alcohol as an example, and I actually demonstrate to people why it's considered a disease is because it impacts every single organ in the body. The most obvious organ is the liver, and we hear about alcoholics over time who lose their liver functioning. But it also impacts the heart, the lungs, and the brain. So if over time this disease is not stopped, ultimately people who suffer with addiction will suffer in every one of their 5 major organs, and that is what ultimately kills them. So what also happens with addiction is that we develop something called tolerance. So while 1 or 2 drinks may not have a profound impact on a person when they're 19 or 20 and they're weighing 180 pounds and 6 feet tall, over time they develop a tolerance and their desire to drink more increases. The same buzz that they got over with 2 or 3 drinks is no longer effective, and they want more and more and more and more. People really struggle with that issue because people like to drink in our culture. We have a culture that invites people to drink alcohol for every event. If you're happy, drink alcohol. If you're sad, have a drink. Happy hour is designated as a time to be festive, to be joyful. But the reality of addiction is once we cross that line, it's no longer joyful.
And the concept of the disease, what you were saying is because it affects physically and emotionally the person, it would be a disease. If it were a heart problem, you would call it a heart disease.
Absolutely. And it is treatable in the same way that diabetes is treatable. Diabetes is a chronic illness. It's rampant right now. And healthcare professionals are simply saying this is a chronic illness that is treatable through diet, exercise, and giving up the things that are harmful to the body. In the same way, alcoholism impacts every organ in the body. It is completely treatable through changing those patterns of consuming alcohol, changing our diet, changing the people who we hang out with, and really committing to recovery in that same way. And I sort of describe it to people in that way.
Sure. No, it's a good way to describe it. It basically is saying you can, while it's not a disease that's cured, you can live.
You can live.
As long as you don't take the substance.
Absolutely.
So being abstinent from that, whatever you're using, whatever drug or drink you're using, that's the key.
That is the key. Well, that's one of the keys.
Now, how do you, as a clinician, somebody comes in, how do you diagnose, well, yes, I believe he is an addict and has an addiction and a disease, versus someone who may not?
That's a really good question. We could certainly follow the textbook model that says if someone is drinking to the point of being intoxicated on a regular basis, if it impacts their social functioning, if it impacts their family relationships, if there's signs of withdrawal from the substance, all of that indicates an addiction or a dependence on the substance. I would also add, if you suspect that there's a problem, if you question whether there's a problem, very often there's a problem.
And this goes for kids and adults.
This goes across the board.
We're talking the whole gamut here.
Absolutely.
Of both.
Absolutely. This goes across the board. So in our treatment program in the Maryland Addiction Recovery Center, there are some people who may not be fully dependent on the drug yet, but they know that there's a potential problem. And so they're coming to the program to deal with the problem. Same thing in my private practice. It may not be a full-blown dependency yet, but there is a challenge right there.
But isn't that the best way to treat it? I mean, if there are parents out there now going, wow, I think my child, it's the end of the summer, they're going back to school, I've noticed that they've got new friends, that he's losing weight, he's whatever, and you suspect it. Now's the time for them to act, not to wait till it gets to be so severe.
Absolutely. And the summer is really a good time for parents to take notice of what their kids are up to. And one of the key things that I work with parents around is finding something for your teenager to do. If you've got a teenager who you already know is consuming alcohol and drugs with their friends, and you pretty much know that before the school year ends, and you find out that their summer plans are not existent, then you are setting your kid up for a real problem. And teenagers, especially, as quiet as it's kept, really should not be consuming alcohol and drugs. Their prefrontal cortexes are underdeveloped. Their limbic system, which is the part of the brain that's all about emotion, are like firing neurons like crazy, and they really don't have the rational ability, one, to stop when they're supposed to stop, and two, to know what's good for them. So teenagers, by nature, are very emotional anyway, and they don't have much rational thought available to them at all times. So then you add a substance that diminishes rational thought anyway, and you've got a real problem. So one thing that I tell parents is make sure your kid has something to do all summer. I think kids should get up in the morning, volunteer, get a regular job, do some babysitting, become
it's the same with school.
Absolutely.
I mean, you know, school's just a few weeks away.
Absolutely.
So when they come home, what are they going to do when they get home?
They need something to do.
Good point.
And there's lots of research that shows that kids who are involved in sports and other extracurricular activities are less likely to become dependent on drugs and alcohol. So you want your kids to be involved. And if you notice that there's some changes going on, if your kid is locked up in his or her room longer than usual, if they're sleeping longer, not that teenagers don't sleep a lot anyway, but if it's 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon and your kid's still asleep on a Saturday afternoon, you might want to look at it. Their friends will change.
And I think what you said before was go back. Trust your instinct.
Absolutely.
If you think something's going on, probably is.
Absolutely. The first time you ask yourself that question, do a little digging.
And that's the time to ask for help. And what we're going to do in our last segment is I want to talk about getting help.
Okay, sure.
How do parents do it? How do you help somebody? What are the next moves to make? What's the best treatment? How to find a good partner? Things like that. Because I think we're leading to that point. So that was terrific. Thank you.
Thank you.
Much. When we come back to Straight Talk, we're going to continue talking about helping people who have problems with addiction. And believe me, we all know somebody that drinks too much or does too many drugs. And they're the ones we want to reach. So stay with us. We're coming right back to Straight Talk.
This is Anthony. Anthony is wanted everywhere.
Anthony's on my team. Oh, he's on my team.
Anthony?
5.
Good answer.
Anthony, will you sit here and play for me?
Sure.
Yes, Anthony is wanted everywhere. Well, almost everywhere. Because recently, when Anthony went with his parents to find a new place to live...
It's already rented.
I just spoke to this guy a half hour ago.
How can his parents tell him the color of their skin is keeping them from this apartment? It's not just unfair, it's illegal.
I'd like to file a complaint.
So Anthony's parents filed a housing discrimination complaint. And now they have a wonderful place to live. If you've been trying to buy or rent a home or apartment and you believe you've been discriminated against because of your race, color, religion, national origin, sex, familial status, or disability, call HUD at 1-800-669-9777 or visit hud.gov/fairhousing. Fair housing is your right. Use it.
Do you want to know what it's like to be a teen? Let me tell you. Your so-called friends who you've grown up with and known forever have now decided that you are not worthy of their company. And the person that you're dating, well, they made it very clear that what they expect out of the relationship and what you expect are two very different things. And your parents, well, your parents, they worry about how you're doing in school, but sometimes they just don't get everything that you're going through. And your sister, well, gotta love family. She's decided that the only way she can exist and be happy in life is by making you miserable. Sure, it's not like this all the time, but enough that sometimes you need help. And that's why there's yourlifeyourvoice.org. 24/7, they're ready to talk, to listen, and to provide the help that you're looking for. They're always there, always ready. You want to change your life? Take the first step. It's your life. It's your voice. Use it. yourlifeyourvoice.org.
Hi, welcome back to Straight Talk. We've been talking about substance abuse addiction, what it looks like, how do we spot it, and what do we do about it. And we've been joined by Dr. Sabrina Injai, who's a psychotherapist, an expert in addiction. She's been helping us figure this whole thing out. You know, and what I want to do now, Doctor, is talk about what if. You know, parents spot something with their kids, a spouse, an employer with an employee. What are they, first of all, what should they be looking for? And then I want to talk about what's the move to make.
Okay. So we talked a little bit about what to look for when you think it's possibly your kid who's struggling with the addiction,
right,
or a family member, or your spouse, someone who lives in your home, and you're more likely to notice the signs there a little more easily than you would possibly notice them in an employer or an employee. But I just want to acknowledge, Mike, how painful it is to come to that realization that the person that you love is struggling with an addiction. Number one, to just really trust your gut, to know that what you're seeing is real, to know that the changes that you're seeing in their behavior is real, and to know that the problem might be bigger than you think, and to be okay with lovingly confronting them. And then trusting that your decision to seek help for them is the best thing for them. Because once you make that decision, then the real work begins.
Right.
Once you make that call, you're going to be faced with a real struggle with that person who may not be ready to give up that drug. And there is a battle that ensues as a result of it. And so what I encourage family members to do is to be okay with setting those goals, to work with a professional around what is the best thing for that person, to understand that when they go through the pain of giving up the drug, you're going to be mirroring their pain because you love this person and you don't want them to be uncomfortable. So I say definitely rely on a professional. Don't do it by yourself. Make a call to a counseling center. Get them involved in 12-step. I personally am passionate about the 12-step recovery program. Help them find someone who you may know in the community who's willing to take them to a meeting, because the other reality of it is they have to find a new community of people to be with who are also on the path of recovery as well.
Yeah, and I think that's really critical because, again, if they're hanging out with the same people, the same place, same time, it's hard.
Absolutely.
It's hard to give up drugs and alcohol when all your buddies are doing it.
Absolutely.
You know, you've got to have some friends who aren't doing it. Now, there's a lot of, there's millions of treatment centers. They're advertising everywhere in this country. How do you know, some are residential, you got outpatient. How do you know what's best, and how do you figure that out?
You may not know right away. And so very often what I encourage people to do is to reach out to a clinician in private practice, to speak to them, to talk to them about what you're seeing in this family member and get some support. So the different levels of care are dependent upon how sick the person is that you're referring for treatment. Someone who has been drinking for an extremely long time, has been consuming vast amounts of drugs, may need to go through what we call a detox. And they definitely need to do that in what we call an inpatient setting. That might be a hospital, or it might be what we call a classic 28-day residential program. Other people may just be able to benefit from what we call an intensive outpatient program, where they go somewhere in their community 3, 4, or 5 days a week, and then slowly step down to 2 days a week to 1 day a week while they're getting community support, and then transitioning out to only getting community support. Some people do it with just a community program, like a 12-step program, like Smart Recovery. However, based on my experience, I find that the combination of getting formal treatment, either residential or intensive outpatient or regular outpatient first, along with community support, is one of the best plans to guarantee, to the best of our ability, that the person that's getting the help is really going to stay on the path of recovery.
And a lot of these programs, some are sponsored by the government.
Absolutely.
Some are private. There's a whole slew of programs for people to choose from and pick out the ones. But I like your idea of maybe getting a private therapist to help walk you through this, almost like a coach.
Exactly.
To walk you through it, because a lot of programs might say, come here, because they're looking, for customers.
Absolutely.
And you have to be careful, and you have to make sure you're going to the right program. And you said it's like going to a hospital emergency room. You got to treat it with the right remedy.
Exactly.
And not overkill and not underkill.
And there is a system that has to be navigated. And so it is really helpful to have someone with you, the family member, to help you navigate the system. You're going in from a place of deep emotion. Your family member is dying. And it's no different from finding out that the person you love has a cancer diagnosis or an emphysema diagnosis. Sometimes your rational thought might be a little cloudy because you're deeply emotionally invested in their health and recovery. So to have someone supporting you while you go through this process is really the best course of action. And then you have to go and get some help yourself.
Right, I was going to say, the whole family's impacted.
The whole family.
You have a father who's an alcoholic, it's going to, the kids, the wife, everybody's impacted, and they're all going to need some help.
Absolutely. The grandchildren, it's an intergenerational
They're all going to need help.
family disease. Absolutely.
And again, you said earlier, 12-step, Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, they're free.
Absolutely.
And they're
free.
in every community in this country. And you can just walk in, and they're all over the place, and they're easy to find. And it's a start.
It is a
If you're not
wonderful
sure where
start.
to go, it's a great place to start because you'll meet people that can obviously help you. But if you don't treat this, what's going to happen?
This is a chronic illness. It's progressive, and it will result in death. That's what happens. People die from this disease. And those of us that work in this field, we go to a lot of funerals, Mike. And my passion is to prevent another one.
Dr. Sabrina Injai, great information.
Thank you.
This thing's not going to get better on its own. Everyone has to pitch in. Everybody has to work together. But help's out there. You have to find it. You have to do some work. But it's out there. And I thank you for all your years of work.
Thank you.
And trying to help people. Thanks for getting the word out. Today on Straight Talk, our goal was to try to inform you. That's what Straight Talk does. Give you the straight talk on whatever issue. Today was substance abuse. We know you know somebody who needs help. Now we have to do it. We have to get the help for that person. There are people suffering, and we have a responsibility to help them. So I want to thank our guests, and I want to thank you for watching Straight Talk, and we're going to see you next time with another topic. Thank you.
Spend 15 minutes watching online videos like this one.
Brushing for 2 minutes now can save your child from severe tooth pain later. 2 minutes, twice a day. They have the time.
Attention parents and grandparents of young children. Have you received this special notice from Gerber Life? If not, you're urged to call this toll-free number now because Gerber Life is accepting applications for their affordable grow-up plan. It's easy to help your child get off to a good financial start for just pennies a day. Free information will be sent to parents and grandparents who call now. Or you can apply right now over the phone if you'd like. The Grow Up Plan gives your child $10,000 in whole life insurance protection now, then doubles automatically to $20,000 later at no extra cost. Later on, your child can buy more, up to $100,000 in total protection, regardless of their health or job, 10 times the original amount. The Grow Up Plan also builds cash value over time that you can borrow from later. Help give your child a head start for just pennies a day. Don't wait. Call now for free information.
Call 1-800-216-2388 now. That's 1-800-216-2388. Or go to growup.com.
This week on Ring of Honor Wrestling, can the Kingdom take down War Machine? Plus, Dalton Castle takes on Cedric Alexander. And before their title matches at All-Star Extravaganza, Red Dragon is in tag team action.
Today at 1 on MyTV Baltimore.